Welcome to Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and again on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on KATX and KWBY as Angela Robinson joins Stace Gaddy to share important financial information to help you live life on purpose, insurance, investments, estate and tax planning, and much more. All covered now on Life Planning 101.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the program, one of our favorite segments, Life Planning 101. I'm Stace Gaddy, our resident expert from Kennedy Financial Services, Angela Robinson in studio. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Stace. Happy to be here on this crisp, cool fall morning.
Yes.
It is so wonderful. I love October in Texas.
I do too, especially when it gets to these kinds of temperatures. It's so nice.
Yes. Absolutely. So we have a fun topic today. I say fun, it's fun for me. May not be fun for some of our listeners because there's going to be a lot of hard truths in this topic, but I think it is one that a lot of people question about, think about, and they're hesitant to ask about because, you know, of their certain family situation, whether it be that they're very private people, like most of us tend to be about our family, they're very protective, or maybe there's parts of their family that's dysfunctional and, you know, they're afraid of public outing. And so what we're going to talk about is how much is too much to leave to your kids. Now, that is a very big question because, you know, and I will say this, a lot of people don't even think about their legacy planning or estate planning until they retire. Mm-hmm. But you need to. In fact, you know, I'm a very young individual, but I've seen so many different tragedies and stories, heard so many stories about tragedies of younger people that this is a very important thing in my family just because of the impact that I've seen it make good and bad over other families. And what really got me on this topic this week was I was reading an article in the Trust Advisor, which is a great magazine that I read all the time. It talks about estate planning. And the article opened with this statement. It said, imagine that you're a self-made person with $100 million in assets. Do you leave
with pleasure?
Yeah, right? Do you leave it all to your children?
Tough question.
That's a tough question,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And I know $100 million, it sounds a bit outrageous, right? But it did give me a new perspective. And here's what it did is most of us have built what we've got. And we've got, you know, $1 million, $5 million, $10 million, whatever it is that we've built up as our legacy and our nest egg, all of our assets. And we say, well, my kids would take care of that. So for those of you that think that, I want you to go back and ask yourself this question. If you were a self-made person with $100 million, do you leave it all to your children? Here's the new perspective. If you didn't say yes, if you said, I don't know, if you said no, the question is, why would that be too much and your estate wouldn't?
I'm with you.
Yeah, so it's
kind of... What is it? Ruler of little, master of much?
That's right. So, you know, and the thing is if you can manage $1 million, most likely you can manage $100 million, right?
Should be able to.
Yeah, you should be able to. You should be able to take care of it because if you can value $1 million, you can value $100 million. So again, my question to you would be, why would it be too much if you don't know? And I go back to something that we talk about in our office, and my dad, you know, you have to realize, okay, when my brother and I started doing business with my dad, we went and did a lot of educational seminars. We were at Hardin-Simmons and McMurray and ACU and up in Wichita Falls and Tarleton. And we would go with him to these seminars. And my dad would spend 3 or 4 nights, depending on which seminar it was, in front of a group of people. And we'd be sitting back in the back. And he'd say, all of our kids are dysfunctional. And everybody turn around and they look at
you.
They look at us, you know. and of course, it made for good laughs. He says, it just matters in which way we're dysfunctional. And it's true. All of us as human beings are dysfunctional. But, you know, I will say this, as my dad has done a good job, because when he does introduce things like that, it gives people the ability to say, okay, it's okay to talk about these things. It's okay to bring these things up and bring them to the present. Because so many times the dysfunctions in our family, we don't do that with them. We just bury them. We say, oh, I'll deal with it tomorrow, or we never deal with it, or we just cover it up all the time and make it worse. And, you know, the thing is that we've seen over the years, we've seen when that happens, when people don't address it, it ends up getting really bad when mom and dad are no longer here. And, we've all got our vices, right? And some of them are serious. Some of them, appear obvious and serious. Money. Some people don't know how to manage it. That's an obvious one. Other vices that we may have, addictions. I think that's one of the biggest scares for any parent. I know, speaking as a parent, is, it really hit me when we were putting together our last estate plan and working on that for our son. I thought, well, what if he becomes an alcoholic? What if he becomes a drug addict? Do I want to have our estate set up where that's going to aid him and embed him? Is that okay? Or do I want to protect him from that? And we all have those fears as parents. Laziness being another one. I think a lot of people that have worked very hard in their lives for what they have, they don't want to see it just wasted away. And then sometimes the issues are less obvious, but just as critical. And I'm going to tell you about 3 different stories of those types of issues when we come back, because I think those are the ones that are really hidden that need to be addressed before you figure out how much is too much to leave to your kids.
Very good. Angela Robinson from Kennedy Financial Services here in Eastland giving us great advice this morning. Stay tuned for the next segment. You won't want to miss it right here on Life Planning 101. Keep it right here. Welcome back in, everyone, to Life Planning 101. I'm Stace Gaddy. As always, our expert, Angela Robinson, continuing in our segment now. How much is too much to leave to your children? Excellent topic, as always.
Yes, it is a really good topic. And I promise I'm going to answer this in the show, by the way. I'm actually going to give you an answer.
Do we have homework?
No, you know what you do. You always have homework with our shows. So, but what's the point of listening if you don't actually enact it?
Get
right?
the information. That's true.
That's right. So I am going to tell you, though, we're going to do things a little bit different today. Normally, we do a trivia at the end of the show, but I'm going to go ahead and give you the trivia question now. And I know Stace has already given away 1 free pizza today, but that is also going to be a trivia giveaway today. So if you
never have too much pizza.
Yeah. So go ahead and write down our email address, lifeplanning@kennedy-financial.com for the large pizza. And here's going to be the question. Do you need to plan for your legacy first or your estate first?
Okay.
And we're going to answer this in the show, so you got to be listening carefully. But as I promised before we left, we talked about families being dysfunctional in one way or another. And I want to share with you some stories because we talked about some of the, obvious issues that we have as dysfunctional families, whether it be, not being able to take care of money, vices that we have, addictions, laziness, those types of things. But I want to talk about some of the things that are less obvious. And I'm going to start by telling you a story about a daughter. And this daughter, she was supposed to take care of mom if something were to ever happen. She was named as the medical power of attorney, the durable power of attorney, and she was going to take care of all of her affairs. And the problem was that mom and dad didn't tell the daughter about this at all and didn't ever prepare her for what was to come down the pipeline. So after dad died and mom got put in a nursing home and she had to go get legal guardianship over her mother, the situation was so bad, she locked herself in a room and refused to do anything. She became extremely emotionally volatile and unable to act at all. Now, I bring that up because a lot of us say, well, I'm just going to, here's my oldest kid, right, to take care of the situation. But I think you also have to think about emotions. Is that person emotionally capable? And not only that, but you need to ask them straight up, hey, if I was in, and it's not a fun topic to have,
right.
A dinner conversation topic to have, but you need to say straight up, if you had to pull the plug on me, because that's what it says in my legal documents that I want you to do, are you able to do that? Are you able to kill me? And I know that's not a fun question to ask, but it needs to be asked like that. And the reason it does is because if they're not emotionally capable, what can happen is horrible. I mean, here she is. I mean, unable to make any decisions whatsoever, not able to help her mom financially, physically, mentally, in a support role, nothing. And instead, she's avoiding her altogether because she can't face it. Mm-hmm. And what's happened to her own life? I mean, how much stress is it put on her and, psychologically? And that's horrible. And no parent wants that for their kids. So I think you have to look at that from that perspective. And the other story I want to talk to you about I tell you what, this has been a story we've been telling people for almost a decade now. It was a gentleman that we worked with, and we often encourage what we call a family legacy meeting, where we quit calling it a family meeting because that just sounded like somebody was getting in trouble, so we started calling it family legacy
meeting.
Family legacy meeting. And so he said, he went, and this was after his wife had passed away, and he brought his 2 boys in. And he said, okay, boys, this is what I want to happen when I am gone. I want you to be able to leave your money here so that you'll have it for retirement, because you both are, in your 30s, and you need to be able to have something. You need to be able to have a nest egg, and you go and live your life, but you're not going to have to save. You're not going to have to do anything. Just make sure that you take good care of this along the way, and it'll be there for you and your family to be able to have a very comfortable retirement. And by the way, you probably retire by the time you're 50.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty nice dad, right?
Yeah.
So he told him exactly, laid it out. This is exactly what I want to see done with my estate, yada, yada, all this stuff. Okay, fast forward, dad passes away. It wasn't a week later that both of those sons showed up back in our office. And by the way, this happened to be a fun year, 2001. And if you remember the markets in 2001, it was pretty ugly, right?
Lost a lot of money.
Yeah. And they wanted to pull everything out of the market. One of them wanted to go start a business that they'd always wanted to start. And the other one was going to buy this and take care of this debt and this and that and this and that. And I'll never forget what my dad said, because, of course, I wasn't around in the business at that point. He said, the boys said, you don't know. Dad didn't know what he was talking about. And my dad said, no, I think he knew exactly what he was talking about. And come to find out, both of those kids are in bad shape financially today. So, I think it's important that, we do more than just have a conversation of this is where I want things to go. We've got to be able to work, together and really work out the legacy planning, not the estate side of the equation. So many of us are just focused on the legal documents, and that's not what this is about. We don't want none of us want our money to become the ruin of our children. We want our money to be able to enrich their lives. And for a simple reason, we know that your legacy, the things that you value most, are more important than any dollar. And you want your kids to know that what the value of a dollar was. How hard was it for you to earn what you have? We know you want them to be successful on their own. Who doesn't want their kids to be successful? And success can be defined in so many ways. It doesn't have to be a financial way for you to be successful in life.
Right.
But we want them to be successful. So is your money going to work in the wrong direction for that? Or what about carrying on the same family values that you hold dear to your heart? If they inherit that lump sum of money, will that change things? And, I'm going to go back to what we talked about earlier, that question, which sounds crazy. If you're a self-made person with $100 million in assets, do you leave it all to your children? And if you can't answer yes to that question, if that sounds like too much money, maybe you need to think about why that would be too much money. Because again, in my brain, if you've got $1 million, you should be able to manage $100 million, because we've seen it. We've experienced it. And there's one other thing I want to talk to you about is and like I said, this is a dysfunction of a family that you often don't talk about because it's a taboo thing. And that's the ability, or rather the inability, to say no. Say no to our children, say no to ourselves, say no to our spouses, say no to future spouses. I can't tell you how many times we've seen, mothers, especially widowed mothers. And I don't know if there's a guilt feeling there. I don't know what it is. But, they have no ability to say no to their children whatsoever. And what does that do to the child? It doesn't allow them to be able to function like they should be functioning, to be successful in their own mind.
It spoils them.
It spoils them.
Good old-fashioned word.
Yeah, it spoils them. And what if they have an addiction?
Right. Then you enable them.
Right? And so, saying no, and saying no to a future spouse, how hard is that? What if it was just set up and you didn't have to worry about it? That's the thing, is that how do you be able to do that? So, again, when we come back, I am going to answer this question. How much is too much to leave to your kids? And when we get done with the show, I'm going to tell you about a special guest we're going to have next week you're going to be real excited about.
Very good, Angela Robinson. You're listening to Life Planning 101. Keep it right here. Welcome back in, folks, to the final segment of Life Planning 101. So glad to have you with us. I'm Stace Gaddy. Angela Robinson, as always, giving us excellent life planning information. That's why I love the title, because it's about finances and things that you need to do. But really, as you've said from day one, it's more about life planning.
That's right. The money is just a tool. And, so many times we forget that because we breathe it, right? It's kind of like oxygen. We have to have it. We've got to have it in our society today, which it can be used as a good thing, but as a blessing. And we can definitely realize that God gave us every dime that we have and be able to give back in the way that he wants us to, or it can be the ruin of us. And I think, that's really what we're talking about today, isn't it?
You sound like King Solomon.
Yeah, I don't know about that, Stace. But so our topic is, how much is too much to leave to your kids? And you have heard us say a lot of times that, and I'm going to say this as a prelude to my answer, because I'm going to give you the answer right now. But you've heard us say a lot of times that our experiences are what have made us great advisors, because we haven't lived your life, everyone listening to the show, but we have lived the experiences that you had and you will have through our clients over the last 26 years. And those combined experiences are what has been able to tell us this one thing. And I'm going to tell you, you don't want to hear this. You don't want to know the answer to this question.
All
so
right,
if you've been listening and waiting.
Bracing myself.
Okay. But here's the deal. If someone has built that amount of money or more, which they are going to inherit for themselves, if they've actually saved that amount of money up, they can respect that value of that dollar amount. But 99% of the time, if they inherit more than what they've built for themselves, they're either going to spend it quickly. We have one right now. They're spending about 20% a year of what they inherited. Blows my mind. It's going to be gone next 4 years. Pretty sad. Or they're going to let it be the ruin of them. That's a hard truth. And here's the even harder truth. And I will tell you this. Are we living in an economy today that you feel like our children are going to be in a better place or a worse place than we are?
Worse. Currently, that's not even a rhetorical question. That's a fact.
That's right. And our education system is dumbing them down, and I'm sorry, but it is. we're all the political people are not going to like me saying this, but our kids are learning to pass a test at school. They are not learning.
Our regular listeners are well aware of this topic.
Yeah, okay, good. Well, then you will know that here's the even harder truth than what I just told you, that your kids most likely are not going to be as successful as you are financially. So the question is, how do you leave? The real question shouldn't be how much do you leave to your kids. It's how do you leave your legacy, not your estate. We all have it ingrained that this option is just to essentially, leave a check behind when we die. That's our option, right? And we can do it in various ways, but that's it. But the truth is that's the furthest thing from the truth. You have so many options that are too numerous to count to be able to leave a legacy, not just a check. And the check is just that tool, just like we talked about. It's just the money. So what happens is the planning is what really counts. And you asked Stace in the break about, okay, so what are you trying to really say here? What is the goal of this? Is it
and the time frame is what I want to get your expertise on and our listeners. 'Cause
right.
It's about how do you teach a legacy? You can't start at the end.
That's right. You can't start at the end. And that's the mistake so many of us make. And I can't tell you, we beg our clients, when we go through our life planning process, we have what we call the 8 life planning issues. We do it with the family. And that takes almost 2 years just to get things pretty rock solid. So once we do that, the next thing we do is we say, okay, family legacy meeting, let's get it down. And I can't tell you how many times people say, oh, well, we'll just wait. And here's what happens is it's just like the story I told you earlier about his dad with his 2 kids, right? At the end, he brought him in and said, this is what I want to have happen. Didn't work at all. And so your question again is when do you need to start? And you need to start now.
Yeah,
Truth
now.
be told. Today, and how do you do that? And you can do it in so many ways. If you remember a few weeks on the show, it may have been last week, I can't remember. I've got too many things going on in my head. But my dad was sharing his Sunday school lesson with me, and they were talking about, and I brought this up on the show, if the end of the world came tomorrow, are you ready? Well, as Christians, I would hope you say yes. We're ready for
Yeah, that begs the question spiritually, financially.
That's right. So, and the next question is are you prepared? Are you really prepared? And so what does that mean? What are the things that you don't want to regret not doing in life? And I guarantee if you really dig down, a lot of those things have to do with your legacy. Maybe teaching your grandchildren something that you want them to know that's very valuable. Maybe passing on some things to your kids emotionally, culturally, that you want them to carry on through their families. And, one of the things that I have encouraged all of our clients to do, and I say you need a budget for it. You just need to do it, and we do it in our family. And it's the best investment you will ever make. And we're investment advisors. I'm going to tell you the best investment. And we don't get paid a dime for telling you this. Here it is. A family retreat every year. We spend so much time, go, and we don't spend time as a family anymore. America was built on God and family, and we have to go back to that. And if you want your kids to be able to take care of your legacy, and you want them to be able to thrive on the dollars that you give them, to be able to help them be in a better place than you are, emotionally, spiritually, financially, psychologically, successfully, whatever that is, you have to start now. And where that's going to start from is it's going to come from your heart. It's going to come from talking to your kids. And you can't do that running 80 miles an hour. I'm sorry, we got to stop and we got to take time. So maybe you need to rent that cabin on the lake you've always talked about.
And unplug. Unplug the gadgets.
Everybody has to throw their phone at the door when you go, and have some things lined out. Play family games, have family dinners. Those are the types of things where the culture comes out. Write your kids a love letter when they leave about how much you enjoyed spending time with them and why. Talk about your family. Talk about where you came from. Those are where everything starts. That's your legacy that you can leave behind. So what's your homework for today? I told you you're going to have it. Okay?
I'm ready.
All right. Plan for your legacy and start today. Now, you don't want to miss our special guest next week. We've got someone that's not even in the financial services industry, but I know they're going to teach you a lot about life. So you're going to really enjoy it. So don't miss the show next week.
Ooh, and I like the tease.
Yes. And don't forget our free large pizza if you remember the question from the beginning of the show.
I do, and I know the answer too.
Good.
But I'm ineligible.
Life planning at Kennedy-financial.com. My name is Angela Robinson, and I am very blessed and happy to be able to share with you every week, and hope all of our listeners are able to gain something and make their lives and their families' lives better because of it.
And I am Stace Gaddy, also blessed to be a part of this particular segment and all of our segments here. It is wonderful. My takeaway today, Angela, is so important, that family time that you mentioned. When you get down to the solution, it is wonderful tip this morning. Take some family time, unplug. That's the only way you're going to be able to teach a legacy, right?
That's right.
Very good. Folks, thank you for joining us. As always, remember, you can always hear these broadcasts again. We have them archived in their entirety, katxradio.com or kwbyradio.com. If you missed any of today's information, check it out. There's also corresponding articles that are posted there as well for even more information. Thanks as always for joining us. Come back again next time for more Life Planning 101.
Thank you for joining us for Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and again on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock on KATX and KWBY for more Life Planning 101.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through VSR Financial Services Incorporated, a registered investment advisor and member of FINRA SIPC. Kennedy Financial Services is not owned or controlled by VSR Financial Services Incorporated.